Narraesthetics is developing an interactive adaptation of The Little Match Girl. We're approaching game design from a narrative perspective, and we've decided to record it all and share it with you. Fuck. I just recorded the entire episode without recording. So I guess now that I got my rehearsal out of the way, what I'd like to share with you guys today is the motivation for the ending of the game. But in order for you to understand the context of the ending, you either need to read the story or you need to understand where the game is coming from. So for those of you that haven't read the story, I'm just going to go through the outline of what the player will be doing throughout the game. But it's a really short game, so it'll be a pretty quick outline. Also, each of these actions that the player does are motivated by certain things, but I'm not going to explain their motivations just yet. We'll explain those at a later time. So at the beginning, the player will be in a very big snowy field, and they'll start walking around. They'll find out that they're actually in front of their grandmother's house. They go inside the grandmother's house to warm up, and then the grandmother gives them matches. They use those matches then to light the fireplace, and they get all cozy. Then they wake up and find out that it was a dream, and they wake up inside the streets of the city. They'll eventually discover their apartment. They'll go inside their apartment and talk to the father. The father will ask him if they've sold any matches today, and the player will say none. One thing you should know about this game, pause real quick. One thing you should know about this game is that the game doesn't use any dialogue whatsoever. It's completely icon driven or symbol driven. There's a language barrier around different languages. It makes for a better engagement. It's called a 2-in-2 process, or at least that's what I've called it. It's where you give them part of the story, and then the audience gives the story, the rest of the story, and they kind of understand it better as a result. After the player discovers the apartment and talks to the father, and the father says, "How many matches did you sell?" The player says 0. The next day starts, and the father says, "Go sell 20 matches." The player will go out and try to sell a bunch of matches. They'll fail to do so, come back, and then the father will ask, "How many matches did you sell?" The player will say 0, and then they'll get punished. This happens at a maximum of 3 times in a row, and I'm hoping that the player will interrupt the process somewhere in between and say that I don't want to go back home. They'll refuse to go back inside the apartment, and they'll wander the city streets for themselves. They'll try to keep warm, and as they try to keep warm, whenever they light a match, a vision appears in front of them, but then the vision fades when the match goes away. So it makes the player hopefully wants to keep lighting matches to make this vision appear more, and the vision is of the grandmother's house from when they were introduced to the game. They keep lighting matches, and as soon as they light a certain number of matches within a very short time, then the vision will become permanent. The player can decide to walk into the vision. Now, this is the mechanical thing that I'm working on, is that once they walk into the vision, then the game is over, and that's it. What I'm trying to do is I have the player go to the threshold of the vision, and as soon as they get to the threshold, their character freezes and they just stop. They'll then start controlling a spiritual version of their character, and the spirit will emerge out of their character very slowly. This is a very jarring thing that happens because it's never happened before. Their character will freeze, the spirit will continue out of the body. If the player stops holding a direction at this moment, then the spirit recedes back into the body, and they regain control over the avatar. It means that the player needs to keep holding that direction and keep control over the spiritual version of themselves and forget about the previous version of themselves. So when the spirit fully emerges from their body, then they can walk around inside the vision, but they can't come out of the vision, and their original avatar stays outside. They can talk to the grandma, and they'll be happy, So I'm really hoping that that mechanical part of slowly emerging a spirit from the body will exude a certain permanence to the player, and the player will understand that there's no turning back afterwards. At least that's what I'm hoping. It's gonna feel interesting. At least I hope it'll feel interesting. I'm trying to prototype the stuff right now. My programmer has a life of his own, so it's hard to get a bunch of prototypes going. But myself, I'm not a really good programmer, but I can program a little bit. So I'm trying to do my best to make out rough prototypes on my own. So that's pretty much it for this episode. In the next few episodes, we'll talk about all the other motivations that are going on in this whole game. My name is Devon. This is Narraesthetics episode 7, entry 7. I'll see you later.